spot.
Oh, well, excuse me for using my charms to further our designs.
You don't have charms, you have arthritis.
They're called jazz hands.
Oh, I'll show you jazz hands.
Oh, yeah.
Let me ask you to describe your character within this dark comedy. Can you tell us, the fans, who this guy is?
Yeah, my character is Harold, one of a trio of hench people who have just lost their villain. And so he is someone who is he is the kind of henchman you would want. Loyal to a stupid degree. He will constantly put his life in danger for the person that he's henching for. I don't know if henching is actually the correct verb. So he's the one who will probably get something wrong. He will be the one who may screw up a little. But my thing is, and in this movie, there's a lot of jokes about the age of Harold, who he just happens to be the same age as me. My thing is, that's impressive, because for a henchman to get to this age, you got to have something going for you. Because henchmen usually are the first ones killed in any kind of a movie to do with villains. And I've made it this far. I think I should have a little more respect than what I'm given.
It sounds like you're taking a stand against ageism, particularly against hench people.
Yes, yes. Old people can be just as horrible as young people. And we do our jobs and love it.
I believe it. No, I believe it. Now, were there any particular performances that influenced your performance or inspired you? Because I thought I saw hints of Peter Lorre at some points during your more maniacal heights.
I am a big Peter Lorre fan, so that may have snuck in. I'm sure I love old movies, and I had to write a film noir play, so I watched every film noir ever. So I decided, well, I didn't decide, but I think all those villains sort of came through me into Harold. And, you know, working with the cast that we had, they just kind of inspire you to do things. And the script was great. And Jeremy Warner, the director, was really open to us trying things. So it was a lot of fun.
Now, talking about the filming process, especially given that so much of the cast comes from an improv background, was there a lot of improvisation, or did you guys mostly stick to the script?
We mostly stuck to the script. You know, as I said, it was a good script, so we could have easily ruined it by making up our stuff. We had a couple of, I think, just very small things where Jeremy would say, you know, try this, or just see what happens when you do this. But it was pretty loyal to the script.
Do you have to put yourself into a different mode when you're going from, you know, a lot of experience in improv to a purely scripted feature? Yeah,
I mean, it's a different muscle. If you actually transcribe a lot of improv scenes, they make no sense whatsoever. It's really, you have to be there at that particular moment. And when you're doing a play or a movie or television, you know, to me, the writer is king. So you have to, you want to get the intention of what they have written out there and make sure it's clear and it's what they want. So it's a little more, maybe a little more analytical in a way. You can still go with your gut at times, but you still want to keep their vision forefront to what you're doing.
Now, this is obviously a huge subversion of, you know, superhero tropes, superhero cinema, which has been pretty dominant for a while now. The first thing I wanted to ask is, are you a fan of comics, of superheroes? Is that something that you were very familiar with when you took on this project?
Oh, yeah. I was big. I have still a lot of comics right behind me, actually, which is... yeah, I have comics from when there were 12 cents. 12 cents. I've gotten a little out of it the last little while, and I don't know if this is because I'm old in the way that when I was younger, I'd read a comic and the story would be there in one issue. Now you go again, you know, over all the different titles that the Marvel or DC has. It would just get confusing to me. But I am a big fan of superheroes and superhero movies.
Did you have a favorite, not superhero, but supervillain? Maybe one that also provided some kind of model for you to think about this world and these characters.
I always loved the Joker
Hmm.
because kind of insane and kind of an improviser. A bit of he would yes and to a horrible way. So and just over the years, it's gotten like when I first started reading, he wasn't quite as murderous as he is now. And I like that actually. I like that you really have no idea what he's going to do from one moment to the other, like an improviser. I don't think any Joker showed up in Harold. If any, it would probably be one of the villains from the Batman TV show. One of the, yeah.
Which is still a great comic kind of property. I think people don't realize how intentionally funny that show was.
Absolutely. It was must-see TV. And the fact that almost every star in Hollywood at that time would be stars, a guest villain for the week. Oscar winners, people who were, hot in music or television and movies, they all clamored to be like some of the weirdest. One of the ones I remember is Egghead. Vincent Price played Egghead, and it was just he was called Egghead because he was bald, I guess. He's probably smart, but yeah, there were, and you could tell they were just having a lot of fun sending up either their own image or just this comic book thing.
Now, when it comes to this movie, do you see it, or was it pitched to you as a commentary on the recent superhero craze, any sort of critique, or more of a spoof, a riff?
Yeah, I think, well, the writers, Jeremy and Jason and Matt, they're all, and I know this word gets a negative connotation, but they're nerds. They're all big nerds, and they love everything to do with pop culture. And Jeremy is one of those who will quote lines from movies that nobody's seen. And you just go, what? So I think part of it was just their love of movies, and also the love of the comics and the superheroes, and getting a chance to go, yeah, the superheroes always get their time in the sun to shine. Mm-hmm. The villains rarely. Yeah, that's a Joker movie. It's not quite it's certainly not the same as this, but it's nice also to see like the lore, like the minions of. I know there was a movie Minions. This is really going against everything I'm saying now, but in a non-animated sense, to see like the nuts and bolts of the villain industry. These people who they don't get the glamour, they do all the crap jobs, but they are loyal and they're working towards something, which is kind of admirable.
Yeah, one of my favorite scenes in the movie was when the three of you try to get your check from your recently demised boss, and unfortunately, there were terms and conditions that just don't apply, which that hit very close to home, especially coming out of the strikes and the weird state that the film industry is in. Did you guys call upon, or were you trying to make specific references to actual, real kind of, I guess, struggles of the working class throughout the picture, or were those happy accidents?
I think a combination. I think the guys who wrote the scripts were smart enough to sort of put these things in there. And there are, that moment reminded me of times of back in the early days trying to get unemployment checks or just applying for a loan or just being told, well, no, it's just never going to happen for you. This is as good as it gets. Get out of my office. So yeah, there was a lot to draw from in those scenes.
Yeah, I actually read a quote from your IMDb that said that that the people you appreciate the most are the people who I think underestimated you, that they gave you a thirst for revenge. Did that come out in any way through this material?
Everything I do is based on getting revenge on the people that I couldn't do anything. And I think I've done, first of all, lasting this long in a job that didn't exist when I was growing up. That feels pretty good. But yeah, there is that thing of I'm torn because I'm also one of those people who likes to please people, sometimes to the detriment of my own well-being. So,
well, you are Canadian, so nobody can really blame you.
Yeah. So I'm trying to find that it's hard to find that balance between wanting people to like you, but also making them pay for any slight they've done against you. I've managed to do it, but it's not easy.
And talking about the filmmaking process, there's a lot of special effects, some stunt work, and some, very, very funny but pretty zany physical gags that you guys do. Were there any interesting moments or mishaps from production that come to your mind as you look back on that?
I don't. Well, Billy Mann, who is fantastic in this, I think when we started filming, he had really hurt himself skiing, and he was doing some physical things that his body really wasn't ready for. So we were all kind of protective of him, both behind the camera and in front. I remember the scene in the bowling alley just because it was just so many people, stunt people, villains run the seagull running around with his claws, and Billy throwing bowling balls at people. So there was those kind of scenes. You just feel like you're a kid again, where you're doing these mock fights that you used to do as a kid. So it was just so much fun, and kudos to Jeremy to also make it seem so clear. I've seen so many superhero movies where there's fights happening and you're not quite sure, people are fighting, but you're not quite sure where the focus is supposed to be. And I think Jeremy did a great job making sure the focus was in the right place at all times.
Yeah, somebody thank him for me, please.
I will.
Yeah. It was interesting to see this kind of spoof-like property film fight scenes more coherently than like $200 million movies. So that was interesting, and that should say something.
Yeah.
Now,
speaking wrong, I'd love to do a $200 million movie if anyone's out there, but this was just as good.
Now, thinking of all the physicality there, had you done anything prior to this that demanded that much physicality, or at least in this kind of specific lane of stunts and fight choreography?
Not for a while, because I don't know if you know this. I'm old now, so I'm suffering from lots of physical things. My knees are screwed. I have arthritis. I can't squat, and not being able to squat in an action movie, that's a hindrance. You probably don't realize how much squatting goes into fights and just relaxing, sitting down. So I'm more the wily veteran now. Like, even on stage, I can make it look as though I've done something physical where I actually haven't moved at all. It's a great skill to have.
Well, that's the power of acting, right?
Exactly.
Now, are there any other kind of lasting things that you would like for fans and audiences to know about that you think will make them need to see this movie or understand what they're in for, what they're in store for?
This movie is just nonstop fun. The actors are amazing. Mallory is great. Jason, wonderful. And there's some others. I didn't bother to learn their names because I got so much to do. It's fun. It's family friendly. I think it's rated PG-13 or something, but there's no swearing. There's no sexual stuff. The violence is pretty cartoon, and it's just a good time. It's just one of those movies where you watch and afterwards you just have that happy feeling, which you don't really get in a lot of movies these days. It has should I spoil it? It has a happy ending. Happy-ish.
Happy-ish. Yeah. That's ambiguous enough. Yeah, it's a happy-ish.
Happy-ish. So watch it. And as I say, it's great for the whole family. You'll get a couple of good laughs, and a couple of good laughs a day is really good for your health. So just for the health benefits, go see this movie.
And speaking of, do you know where specifically people will be able to see this movie when it comes out on this Friday?
Around.
Okay. We'll decipher what around means through our
villainsIncmovie.com. I think they have a listing of everywhere where it is. I'm in Toronto right now. I know they're showing in one theater here in Toronto, so I'll be checking that out. But yeah, find out if it's in a theater near you, and if it is, run, don't walk.
Fantastic. Well, those are all my questions. I just have to thank you again, Colin, for chatting with us at Dread Central. It's a huge honor. And horror fans, I think at their hearts are also comedy fans. I think horror and comedy play by the same rules. Would you agree that there's a logic to that?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I've done a couple of horror movies where there also is there's a weird sense of fun to a horror movie that's different but similar to a comedy. I've had so much fun like killing people with shovels, things like that. And I think you see a joy from the actors in horror movies that you'll also see in comedy movies. Dramas, everyone's just so, but horror, decapitating, killing, pulling, being possessed, come on.
Well, that's great to hear you say, and that's why I avoid both comedy and horror actors whenever I see them on the street. All right. Well, thanks again for joining. Jeremy, I think that's it for my end.
Let's go to my end too. No, this is awesome. Thanks so much for taking the time, Gabe and Colin.
Absolutely.
I know this is last minute. Thank you for taking the time.
No, this was my pleasure. And if there's anything else I can do for you guys, either in promotion of this film or whatever future projects you guys have coming up, I'm always around, always available.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
And just best luck. Really hope people get the chance to see this movie. I think we are just too deprived of great comedy movies these days. I know people have been saying that for a while, but it was so refreshing to see a film that was so earnestly funny and earnest about its characters. So thank you for that.
Thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it.